Hi, thank you so much for joining me. Today we're talking about Disney Cruise Line Transatlantic cruises.
I'm Christina. I'm a traveler, a planner, and most importantly, a mom. I'm sharing my best tips to make traveling as a family a little less stressful. So put down your phone, pack your bags, and let's showcase the world.
Transatlantic cruises seems to be a popular subject, and it's not a very popular cruise, so it seems that people are really interested in them but not actually taking them. Maybe it's because they don't have 13 nights to take a vacation. So basically, the Transatlantic is a repositioning cruise for Disney, and you have the Disney Magic that is coming from the Caribbean and has to go over to the Mediterranean for the summer. So you have two cruises that happen in a year as the Magic makes its way from Port Canaveral over to Barcelona, and then from Barcelona to New York. They only happen once a year each, so it's important that if you're interested in them that you book them early. And the cost per day of a transatlantic cruise is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. If you're looking at a 7-night cruise in the Caribbean, your 10 or 13 night transatlantic cruise is going to be pretty similar in cost, and you get 3 to 6 days more. So your cost per day is fantastic. You have great options here if you want to visit Europe and you don't like to fly. This is a great way for you to get over there. If you absolutely love sea days, if you've done a Disney cruise and you love sea days, this is a great option for you. It's also a really good option if you want to see all the Disney cruises, you haven't done the Magic, and you want something that's cost effective. That's great as well. If you don't love kids on your cruise, which I have kids, love kids, sometimes want to take a vacation without kids, you still want to go on Disney Cruise Line, this is a great option. It travels in, the Transatlantics are in May or September, so they're right as kids are getting out of or going into school, so there's not a ton of people taking their kids out at that time. It's also, again, 10 or 13 nights, so that's a lot of school to miss. So you'll see a lot of families with younger children and a lot of adult travelers on Disney Cruise Line at this time. Also, if you love unique itineraries, if you're trying to cross all of Disney's itineraries off your list, then you're gonna have to do a transatlantic. That's who a transatlantic would really be a good option for. It's not a great option if you don't like sea days, if you really like going on cruises to visit new places and go to new ports. It is awesome because you have ports that you don't travel on other itineraries, but you're mostly doing sea days because you're crossing the Atlantic. So if you don't love sea days, then I would not do a transatlantic cruise. If you don't have a ton of vacation time, probably not the best cruise for you. What can you expect on a transatlantic? You can expect a lot of on-ship fun. They add all sorts of new activities for the transatlantic, again, because you have 6 days at sea, so they have all sorts of fun things. Someone who has done mostly 7 nights, I always feel like I don't get to do everything I want to on the ship, so this is a great opportunity to go just relax and see some movies, catch up on your movies, read a book, sit by the pool. It might not be warm, but you can sit by the pool and just relax. So that is they really amp up the onboard entertainment for the transatlantic cruises. If you're going eastbound, Eastbound crosses the Atlantic from Miami to Barcelona, and it's usually mid-May. You have 6 days at sea, and then you have some really great ports. I do wish it was flipped, then you had the port days and then the days at sea, so that you were nice and relaxed after your vacation, but you're going this way, so that you got to do what you got to do, right? So the first stop is in Ponta Delgado. It's an island in the Azores, and it has so many fun things to do. You can go canyoning, hot springs, biking. It's very much like visiting a Caribbean island in terms of the excursions that are available. They have whale watching, but my personal favorite is they have a pineapple farm. The history of this is just so intriguing to me. When the Portuguese colonized Brazil, they brought back a pineapple, and they didn't have the right conditions to grow the pineapple, so they created the conditions, and it's just really, really cool, and I love pineapples. So that would definitely be the excursion I would go on if I went on this itinerary. So you have that stop in the Azores, and then you have a day at sea. You stop in Lisbon, which is the capital of Portugal. It is such a hidden gem when it comes to architecture and culture and cuisine. Everyone's going to Paris, everyone's going to Barcelona, everyone's going to Rome. Lisbon is kind of a very similar in that it's that European capital, but it has something unique because it's not as touristy, and it still has that old school charm there. So definitely check that out. There's all sorts of city tours. Then there's also day tours out to Sintra, Casais, or Obidos. Obidos is a really cute little fishing village, and I definitely want to check that out on my trip to Portugal. Then you stop in Cadiz, Spain, which is a medieval city, and it has all sorts of Moorish and Baroque influences. So it was established during the Middle Ages, and then but has more of a Renaissance feel to it because it has that influence from the Moors. The Moors didn't necessarily have that Black Ages period because they had all of their libraries and learning, and they just have a really, really great great culture there that doesn't exist elsewhere in Spain. There's all sorts of great culture in Spain, just not as unique as in Cadiz, and that's where the flamenco style of dance started. So there's a lot of excursions that have to do with learning or seeing flamenco. You have a day at sea after Cadiz, and then you end in Barcelona. And Barcelona is one of my favorite cities. It has a bustling culinary scene. It is blowing up on Instagram right now because of its amazing architecture and little hidden courtyards, and there's all sorts of fashion designers and modern museums and history museums, the beaches and the parks. It's just, Barcelona is such a great city for any type of vacation you want to take, whether it's cultural, relaxing, just really, really, really amazing city. Definitely really easy city to visit with kids as well. So even if you're not taking a transatlantic cruise, I would love to help you plan your vacation to Barcelona. So then the Magic spends some time doing the Mediterranean, it spends some time doing the Norwegian fjords, and it spends some time doing the Northern Isles of England. Then it comes back across the sea. So it leaves from Dover, which is about 80 miles south of London. So you fly into London, spend a few days in London, then take a train down to Dover to catch the cruise. Dover is known for its majestic white cliffs, but there's not a ton to do there, so you want to spend your time in London and then come down to Dover. Your first stop is going to be in Portland, England, and that is going to be the closest port to Stonehenge. Stonehenge, I'm sure you know, is the wonder of the world, where there's these majestic boulders and they don't know how they got into the way they did. So Portland has a lot of excursions going to Stonehenge. It's also a busy harbor town that you can just walk around, enjoy the shops, go over to the 16th century castle. There's all sorts of museums and sculpture parks because they're known for a particular type of stone. That stone was used to build St. Paul's Cathedral. So St. Paul's Cathedral, Portland Castle, all built with this special stone. So there's a lot of sculpture parks. There's also a really cool sea life center. So that is an awesome excursion if you do bring kids on your transatlantic cruise. Then you're heading over to Ireland. You are, I'm not even going to try to pronounce the port name, but it's basically a port that's very close to the city of Cork. and you're gonna do most of your excursions in Cork anyway, so we're just gonna call it Cork. My Gaelic is terrible. So in Cork, you can do excursions over to Blarney Castle, which is more than just the Blarney Stone. The grounds there are absolutely stunning. It's a beautiful castle, and if you ever make it to Ireland, you definitely want to check it out, even if you're not going to kiss the Blarney Stone. You can also visit the village of Kinsale, which is an adorable little town where you're going to have your traditional Irish pubs, and it's just going to be really cool to walk around and explore. You have the Jameson experience. You have Ballymaloo. Ballymaloo is an amazing culinary school, and there's an excursion that Disney offers where you have a 3-course tasting in this culinary school, and it's all farm to table. All of the cuisine in Ireland is pushing towards farm to table because there's so many farms, right? So you have this great new interest in the culinary arts in Ireland, and so this manor house is now a culinary school and a really, really great excursion. Then you have 4 days at sea. And so you visit England, you visit Ireland, and then you spend some time on the ship. I think this is a good balance. I love this itinerary because you have a few days at the beginning of the cruise that you're in port, and you have a few days at the end of your cruise that you're in port, and you can just really enjoy the ship those 4 days at sea. Then you land in Sydney, Nova Scotia. Sydney is very much all about history and making history come alive. There is a coal digging experience, there's bread making, there's just History Alive museums. The History Alive Museum is where you have the costumed actors who act like they're living in that time and teach you about what it was like to live in that time. So there's a lot of different experiences like that in Sydney. There also is an Alexander Graham Bell Museum, a lobstering excursion, which I love lobster. I don't know if I'd go on this excursion because I'm from New England and I have access to lobstering boats, but it's a really cool experience. I've done it here to go out, harvest your lobsters, and then cook them. It's just, you're never gonna have better lobster, I promise you that. The excursion I would probably go on in Sydney is puffins. There is a puffin excursion, and I love puffins as much as I love pineapples. So you'll be finding me on the Eastbound going on the pineapple excursions, and on the Westbound doing the puffins. And I would just love to see the puffins. You go out on the boat and you kind of go around the islands, and you see all sorts of puffins, which would be so, so cool. Then you have Halifax, Nova Scotia, and Halifax has a special place in my heart because I'm a huge fan of the Anne of Green Gables book series, and in the second and third books when she's in school, she is in Halifax, and that's just really cool to me. There's the Museum of Immigration, so it's kind of the Canadian version of our Ellis Island. You have a maritime museum, and then all sorts of city tours. You have the hop on hop off bus, things like that. Halifax is a pretty bustling city and has a lot to do, but I would just look for Anne of Green Gables filming locations if it was me. You have your last day is a day at sea, and then you disembark in New York. And from what I have heard from everybody who's done a transatlantic is not to miss pulling into New York. You disembark early in the morning, like 7 or 8 o'clock, so you're pulling into New York Harbor really early, like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, but pulling up and seeing the Statue of Liberty at dawn is a magical experience. So definitely save your early morning for your disembarkation day and see that site, and then you can spend some time in New York before flying home, go see a show. Disney does offer excursions to backstage tours to Aladdin and The Lion King and whatever else is a Disney show that's currently on Broadway. So those are really fun things to do, or go to the Disney store in Times Square, or any of the other million of things that New York has to offer that's not Disney related. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Even if you don't take a transatlantic cruise, I hope I inspired you to want to see one of these locations and to explore the world together. So thank you so much for joining me. I would love to help you book and plan your transatlantic cruise or your visit to any one of the cities I talked about, whether it's on the transatlantic cruise or not. So if you'd like to request a quote, head to my website right here and just head to the request a quote page and I will get a proposal over to you within 24 hours. Thank you so much. I hope I inspired you to want to take a transatlantic cruise or visit one of these locations and see the world together. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that I was able to answer any questions you have about transatlantic cruises. If I did not and you would like to contact me or you would like to request a quote for your transatlantic cruise, head to my website, showcasetheworld.com. I'd be glad to help you, or I'd be glad to help you plan a vacation to one of these destinations I mentioned. Whether or not you have time for a transatlantic cruise, I can definitely help you plan your visit to one of these amazing cities. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope I inspired you to explore the world together.
Need help planning your next family vacation? Visit us at showcasetheworld.com to request a quote or schedule a free vacation consultation. Want more great travel tips? You'll find those there too.